Hey, it's Dee from Twinflame Stories podcast. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, let me give you a rundown. Basically, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Here's how it works. Anchor lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to the most popular listening platforms, including Spotify, with a single tap. Anchor is also the only place you can publish video podcasts to Spotify. With Anchor, creators can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hi, it's Dee from the Twinflame Stories podcast. Welcome. The Twinflame Stories podcast is a place where you can listen to stories from other twin flames and where you can share your own journey. If you'd like to share your own journey, please write to me at d@denisetaylor.me. I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I'm a one-person production, so please understand it might take me time to respond. Please be sure, if you'd like to share your story on the podcast, that you change the names of people and places if you don't want those to be used publicly. I also have a community on Facebook that you can join called The Collective. The Collective is a group that offers daily divination, monthly energy clearings, a monthly live card reading session, and a personal one-card read each month. In addition, it's a platform to ask, receive, and lend a hand to other twins as they navigate their journey. You can find out more about the paid subscription to The Collective by visiting denisetaylor.me. The link will be in the show notes. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Hi, everybody. So it's week 4 of the episode of the podcast already. The 4th episode, believe it or not, hard to believe. But I just wanted to start off by saying thank you to Kim from last week for sharing her story with us. And I have super exciting news. Kim has decided to give a gift to anybody who decides to share their twin story here on the podcast. She wants to do a free relationship healing for them as a way of saying thank you. So thank you to Kim, and thank you to anyone who decides to volunteer. If you do volunteer to come on the podcast and share with us, you can just email me at twinflameauthor@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you so we can arrange a face-to-face discussion at your convenience. And I am really super excited today to share with you that a person named Mary has decided to share her diaries with us on how she experienced her twin flame relationship. They probably span maybe 6-9 months. I'm not exactly sure at this point, but they are very personal. It took her some time to think about whether this was something she wanted to put out for the world to listen to, but she has graciously said that she would like to share her diaries with us, and I hope you find them exciting. I will read them to you when we don't have guests to share their own stories, so that we have some content that you guys can still enjoy and look forward to. Before we do get started with Mary's diary, though, I do want to share a resource for you and talk to you again about meeting with your twin in the 5D. So ways that we can meet with our twin in the spiritual realm is through visualization and meditation. And you can do things like visualize the Merkaba and ask them to come in with you. You can meet them that way, or you can do a meditation where you can go into a place, like a sacred place. This type of meditation isn't like just letting whatever flows count, like it does flow, but you will have a place that you will go to, a sacred spot. For instance, one of my good friends has a cave. That's her sacred space. I happen to have a garden, and whatever you feel connected to, that could be your sacred space. You ask your team to come there with you, you ask your twin to come with you, and then it flows from there, and you could get all kinds of messages, you could experience things. I know in Mary's diary, she also has a garden, and she does share with us some things that have happened in that garden. Actually, most of her diary is about what has happened in the 5D. So I do ask that when we come to those points of her diaries, that you respect that what she is telling us is extremely private and sacred, and if you could hold it in that space, and that would be wonderful. I also wanted to give you guys a resource that actually comes from Mary, that Dakota Walker on YouTube has a visualization meditation on finding your twin flame or meeting your twin flame. And Dakota uses this sacred garden for you to find and meet with your twin in the spiritual realm. So you can just search for Dakota Walker on YouTube. I will try to put the link in the comments of the podcast also, so it will be there too. But if you just search Dakota Walker on YouTube and then go through her list, you will find the Twin Flame meditation, and you will be able to listen to that. It's really a great resource. Okay, so Mary's diary, her first entry, is quite long because it's the introduction of how she met with her twin and kind of like the gist of what happened. We may not have time to finish her whole introduction, this first entry, but we'll just see how it goes, and if there's not enough time, we'll leave it as a cliffhanger for the next episode. So here we go. December 17th. Dear Diary, let me start by saying I've considered writing all of this somewhere, but so far I've been keeping everything that has happened in the confines of my mind. I think I'm running out of room, and perhaps someday I'll want to reflect back on the things that have happened, and I know someday I will hand him the diary and he will say, "You knew." I did know. I was there the whole time. I guess it might be helpful if I give you a little backstory on what has been happening. 2 months ago I met a person, a man. It was very much by accident. My first view of him was, wow, he's adorable, cute, hot, sexy, and about 1,000 other thoughts. Within the first minute of coming face to face with him, it was like all of my senses were on a high alert. My emotion, every emotion I possessed, passed across my face in that moment in front of him, as if my soul was saying, yes, there you are. Let me reveal my entirety to you so you'll remember. When I walked closer to him, it dawned on me that I was in big trouble. I had done something monumental. The higher spirits had it in mind that we would actually speak to each other, and here my soul had opened the door wide. He was nonchalant, smiling, arms crossed on his heart chakra. That smile reached his eyes. Oh, how his eyes twinkled. It was like he knew something yummy that I hadn't been told about just yet. Despite being very good-looking, he isn't what I would have considered my usual type. It threw me for a loop, and that I was so highly attracted to him. When he spoke to me, his soul was very direct. His eyes were looking into me. I could feel the projection. My 3D was immediately curious. When I had departed from him, I asked everyone who might know him what they knew about him, and everyone who came into my line of communication that day heard about how I had met him. It makes me chuckle thinking about it now. The next day we ran into each other 3 separate times. Coincidence? My higher spirits are currently laughing as I write that. They know it was divinely intervened. Each meeting was brief, but the same sensation came over each time. My soul would scream, "Oh, there he is," and I would have the sudden urge to hug him tightly. Oh, how I wanted to squeeze him. My heart was singing. I was so happy. I felt this incredible high. Oh, what was this all about? He also reacted with directness each time. Like the essence of his soul was there. He had no fear of directing his energy toward me. It was intense. Oh, the attraction. The very odd part about when I left his presence, I would forget the exact details of his features. I could only remember his soul. We knew each other soul to soul. and not human to human, so I had yet to connect the human body to his soul. I hadn't been able to make a solid connection that would keep us connected in the 3D. Goodness, why was I even feeling like I needed a connection? I mean, I had this nice, cushy life. Why did I need to stay connected to this man that had the potential to disrupt it all? That's when my higher up started. My team of higher beings, my angels, my higher self. Listen here, Mary. You need to make a connection. Do you hear us? You have to. No, there's no need. I am content, happy. Why would I want to disturb that? We're insisting. Don't ask why, just do it. No, not doing it. Yes, you are. We are not taking no for an answer. And how do you expect me to make this solid connection? We will help you. I sighed. My team of higher beings were relentless sometimes. I knew I was going to cooperate. Now to listen to the path I was given. I hadn't been on mission for years. I wasn't exactly thrilled with the idea of going back on mission either, but my soul was crying out for this man. I realized that he was leaving the area in a few short weeks. His time here was just temporary, and if I was going to say something, it had to be soon before he left. I rang up one of my dear friends who was well versed in the area of spiritualism. Okay, darling, tell me what to do if I meet someone and I feel like I have a connection with them, I pleaded with her. Tell them, she simply replied. I started imagining how I was going to manage this connection. Well, it happened that a friend of mine, an acquaintance of his, happened to have his number and gave it to me readily. That was solved. The next day I worked up the courage to write a text introducing myself briefly. I looked at it, tried to decide if I should hit send. I mean, what if he didn't answer? Or what if he said, who the F are you? Or what if he said, go away, you annoying thing? Or maybe so many other awful things I could think of. My higher up spoke again. Send it. I took a deep breath and hit send. I let the breath out slowly. Phew, I couldn't believe I'd just done that. I'd just sent a text to a stranger. Hey, he responded. We sent a few conversational pieces back and forth. It just happened that he was interested in 2 different women. That actually came up very naturally in our conversation. I was relieved. Phew, I could easily tell him about our connection now that I was safe from deep involvement. Yes, this was good, and so I sent this. Do you believe in reincarnation? I do, he replied. I know you, I braved. Then there was a flurry of messages back and forth and an urgent phone call. Hi, I said shyly. Hi, he replied. Well, that escalated quickly, I laughed. He chuckled. Yes, it did. Do you feel the attraction? Do I have to confess? Yes, please, he pleaded. Yes, I'm confessing, and went on to explain how I felt the urge to run up and hug him and confess that he was highly attractive. If you know me, this is highly unusual for me. I wouldn't think of saying this to a man, let alone a sort of strange man. He confessed he had been putting the vibes out there. Lord help me. My spirit was jumping up and down for joy, and I was feeling human dread all at once. I'm doomed, I lamented. Why, he sounded curious. Because I'm head over heels thinking about this connection, I nearly squealed into the phone. He chuckled. That summed it up, the high and the low all at once. We ravenously text each other over the next 2 weeks. I was so high and at times so low, I cried sometimes for no reason. I couldn't eat. I wasn't hungry. I kept feeling this urge in my soul that he was leaving. He was leaving. He was leaving me again. He's leaving forever. You'll lose him. It was the worst impending doom I've ever experienced. I couldn't get enough of him, but did my best to let him initiate conversation some of the time. I didn't want to overwhelm him. I even felt maybe I was being too much, so I backed off a wee bit. During this period, I had a dream. It was one of my dear soulmates, Doug, who had passed on a few years ago. He came to me in the dream. Why don't you write? Why don't you communicate? He asked me angrily. Why don't you show me how you feel about me? I was shocked because Doug knew the depth of my love for him. In the dream, Doug explained that he was the messenger for this new connection. Doug explained that the message he brought were directly for the new connection. Keep writing, Doug warned. So I made sure to send an occasional good morning text or good night or an email. Sometimes I'd get a response, sometimes I wouldn't. One morning I woke up to an email. What time are you getting up? Had been sent at 3:48 a.m. I sent one back. Just now I'm being slow. It was 6. I decided to text too. Hey, "Hi, come and meet me. I want to see you. Hurry." I drove to where he was as fast as I could. I was so nervous. We hadn't had any physical connection yet. I came face to face with him. "Good morning." I grinned like a lunatic. "Good morning." He also was grinning like a lunatic. He snaked his arms around my waist. "My hands are on you." "I like your hands on me," I whispered to him. "Can I kiss you?" "Yes." I leaned in and kissed him tenderly on his lips. His hands were holding and touching. Then he leaned in and kissed my neck. It was exquisite. We spent maybe a total of 10 minutes embracing before I had to go to work. I didn't want to be responsible right then. I wanted to stay forever. I said goodbye. The look in his eyes was haunting. He didn't want me to go. I blew him a kiss as I walked away, got into my car, and nearly fell out before I closed the door. I was so unsteady. In hindsight, had I known that was the last physical embrace we would have for the time being, I would have stayed. I would have called in sick and stayed all day. But hindsight is always 20/20. It just wasn't meant to be any more than the kiss and the intimacy for several minutes. Our texts were more frenzied than ever. We couldn't get enough of each other. We were on week 3. Suddenly there was a pause. I had a sense there had been a shift. I could feel it. I told myself I was just being hormonal. I was just imagining that I could sense what he was feeling. I had a mini mental breakdown despite lying to myself. I felt like my heart was being ripped from my soul. It was the dark night of the souls. But I didn't know about that at the time. I still hadn't made the connection about twin flames. I needed Anne to point it out to me later on. I broke down sobbing. I cried for nearly 4 hours. I never knew I could sob so hard and for so long. Eventually, when I gathered myself, I emailed him, pouring my heart out, explaining how I didn't want to lose the connection. I said I felt something was off. Please just tell me all is well, that nothing has changed. He wrote back that night and said it was all okay. I trusted him and slept soundly after. A week passed with very little communication. One morning I woke up and felt restless. I couldn't keep doing this. This relationship that wasn't and was at the same time was killing me. I had the highest highs and the lowest lows. I thought I was going to die somewhere on the downside. I needed to get out of it. I was going to call him and tell him we have to take it down a notch to just friends. I sent a text. "Can you call me?" "Yes." I prayed to my higher beings. "Please let me say what needs to be said. I need guidance for the right words." He called me about an hour later. The very first words that came to my lips were, "Before I say anything, what happened?" He went on to explain that he had decided he couldn't interfere in my current settled life. He felt it was simply wrong for him to disrupt the nice cushion I had at this point. I understood, but my soul didn't. "My heart says more," I explained. "I know, but you have to rein it in. I can't disrupt what you have now. I won't be here soon. That wouldn't be fair to you. You have to promise me to stay with what you have right now. Don't let me be the reason you change," his voice filled with reason and compassion. "I know," I paused. Finally, I gathered my wits to go on. "I will. How about being very good friends?" "You bet." We talked for a long time. Interestingly, we talked like old friends. When I'd hung up, I felt nothing but comfort and love. I could handle this. I would handle this. It might not be what my soul was hoping for, but my human self was content with this decision. I emailed him that night, thanking him for the wonderful discussion and letting him know he was amazing. The next couple of weeks, our communication picked back up. Not to its usual frenzy, but certainly an improvement over the last couple of weeks. I was grateful for the connection. However, I missed some of what had been. I missed the late night emails saying, "Text me." I missed the "I'm going somewhere, but keep texting me. I want to talk to you." I saw him here and there in passing, a few words exchanged, a wave. It killed me and saved me all at once. I loved seeing him and hated how it tortured my heart that he wasn't in my life the way I wanted him to be. I wanted him to stay here forever. I also thought, once he leaves, maybe my life will go back to normal. Somewhere in the middle of this shift, I suddenly sent a long text telling about my current day. It was really out of nowhere. He wrote back and was very sweet. The next day, the conversation came right back to the usual. "I want you. I want you too." I saw him one more time where we talked face to face. He unexpectedly shared a fact about his life he had earlier told me he didn't want to discuss. I was surprised. I listened and didn't comment, just gave my unwavering attention and unconditional love. I love making eye contact with him. He also told me of his plans once he was away from his current place and how he would enjoy what was coming. I could only smile and actually be happy for him. If he was happy, then I was happy. That's really how simple it was with him. Whether or not I wanted to feel happy, if he was happy, it flowed to me and I was happy too. At one point, he looked me in the eye. Our souls connected, strongly. "We're going to get in big trouble, aren't we?" He sat back in his seat, smiling like a madman and squeezing his eyes shut briefly before looking at me again. I felt that this was his interpretation of big trouble was giving in to his feelings and throwing our friend plan out the window. "I see it coming," I calmly replied and smiled longingly. He grinned at me. He was so excited. After I left him that day, things got quiet again. My heart was aching for him. It was stupid and wonderful. Stupid that I wasn't getting what I wanted, and wonderful that I wanted it. I had conversations with myself on a daily basis. I discussed with myself how it was good for us to have the space before he left. Then I would cry because I missed him. The last day he was in town, he was very sweet and sent several texts that were very much like what I was used to. I was so incredibly grateful for those messages. The day he was gone, I pulled into the parking area near his house. The place was empty. I put my head on my steering wheel and sobbed my eyes out. I called a friend of mine, Marie. She was attentive and could only imagine exactly what I was saying. She also had a twin that she wasn't currently with. However, I didn't know this was actually my twin. I didn't even know what twins meant. I sobbed to her, and even if he stayed, it wouldn't have mattered because we're so different. He likes to be social and go out to drink, and I'm an introvert who likes books and doesn't even take a drop of alcohol. I have no desire to, Marie. What was I thinking? How did I fall in love with this man? How can I be in love in just a few short weeks? Marie did her best to comfort me between sobs. She made sure I was safe to drive and told me to go home. I listened, but first I sent a text. "You're gone. I'm going to miss you so much." At this point, my ego had been trampled, and I couldn't give a rat's ass about it. If it got trampled some more, I wouldn't give a shit. There was an instant response, surprisingly. "I'll be back. Talk to you soon." "Oh, good. Enjoy your evening." I went home and crashed into bed. Coincidentally, Anne sent me information on twin flames right after he left. My reaction was this. Why does she send me this? I know she has a twin, but I don't have one. Oh well, let me read it. There must be some good reason she wanted me to. I opened the information and it hit me like an arrow shot from a bow straight into my heart. My conversation out loud to myself sounded like this. "Wait, this is us. What? Say what? We're twins? What the F? No, no, no. I'm not doing this twin thing. No, no, no. I don't have time for it or the energy. Being twins is hard. He can't be my twin. If he is my twin, that means we have a lot of work ahead of us. Holy F, shit. I'm not doing this twin thing. We can't be. This has to be wrong. Oh Lord, I think it's right. Never mind, I know it's right. It explains my life for the last month. Everything is exactly on. God help me. I'm going to need it. And my journey began. I started researching. Anne sent me lots of helpful information. She laughed and laughed when I called her and said, "We are twins." She replied, "I know. Thank goodness my sister has been on this path ahead of me." I began listening to healings with Jill Miller and Remy Vieira of Twinflame Healers. It's so interesting because I had just asked my guides to send me a teacher just a few days before Anne sent me the link for their webinar. This team is amazing, and I really feel like my prayers were answered duly. Perhaps because now there's two aspects to me. I need two teachers. I love them so much. I did clearings. I learned about the Merkaba and being able to meditate and do healings with him in the 5D. The first time I did a guided healing with us in the Merkaba, I started sobbing. It was the first time I had been in full 5D with him. I didn't realize how easily we could connect. He could talk to me. His soul could touch mine. He could smile and laugh and embrace me, and I could love him. I could tell him everything. I could ask him questions. I began meditations. I started sharing with my soul circle that I had met my twin. I shared the information I knew. I looked for more. I listened to every piece that I could. although I had to be careful what information came and decided, was this person enlightened enough to know the universal truth? It was very simple to distinguish. The more I learned, the more I realized how much I had learned from my dear soulmate Doug. The many things I had learned from my time with Doug rang true with all this new information. The Akashic Records, Edgar Cayce, chakras, auras, the collection of higher beings that exist, everything just fell into place for me. My heart was wide awake. I couldn't get enough of all of it, and all of this was because of him. I felt like when our souls met, it was like God just took me by the shoulders and shook me violently. Wake up, I need you. Okay, God, here I am, wide awake. I think I need coffee. As I continued to research and learn more, I suddenly had the opportunity to travel to his new location with some friends. I knew it wouldn't be impossible to see him, but just to be in his vibrational space would be amazing. I left a visit with my dear friend high on the thought of being near him. I consulted with both Anne and Marie. Do I tell him? I'll be there? I knew somehow he wasn't going to be in town anyway. I'm not really sure how I knew this, but I was still thrilled to think of experiencing his space. Both of them agree. I should say something. I was going to wait until I was on my way there the next day, but for some reason, despite it being so late, I opted to email. As soon as I sent my email, there was an email in my inbox. I was confused. Did my email bounce? Did he block me? Wait, it says it's from him. It's from him. We emailed each other at the exact same time. His read, text me. I responded with a text. Hey. Hi, honey, came his reply. Wow, say what, honey? He called me honey. He had never called me an endearment prior to this. He had called me beautiful, gorgeous, sexy. But he had never called me an endearment like this. What was this about? We engaged in a conversation for about 20 minutes. We didn't talk much about the fact that I was going to his town, but I had been right about him being away from home. I dreaded the ending of the conversation, but I knew it was coming. The last text was never enough. I ached for him as soon as it was in my inbox. Why does this relationship make me so high and so low all at once? Oh yes, that's right. It was the way with twins. They brought each other into the brightest light, into the darkest darkness. This was completely normal. The next day I was in his town. I wasn't expecting the vibrations that I was experiencing. It felt off, like it wasn't right. I left there later that day worried about what the vibes meant. Was it simply because he was away? Was it because of the new experiences he was adjusting to in this place? It was brand new after all. I still don't know the answer to that, but I feel better about it now. After this interaction, we talked a few times here and there, an occasional text to say I'm okay or I'm doing well. There was even an email saying that most of the time I didn't hear from him, it was because texting was so much easier. I nervously thought, since he had been out of my 3D vibrational space, that texting wasn't so easy anymore. I wrote back saying I would attempt to text more. That day we had a brief interaction. Later that night I sent another one saying I was off to bed. As usual for Par, he didn't text back. Sometimes he would do that. He'd be interactive and the next not. Not to make excuses for it, but I think he's simply the kind of person who doesn't reply well to messages in general. Yes, there are people like that. It's sort of like they see it right away and think of something to say, and then they forget about going back to it later. During this time, I really hit the clearings and healings hard. I was participating in a mastermind group. I was working very hard at my spiritual journey. I was doing healing for both of us. I was holding space for him and loving him unconditionally. I was listening and re-listening to some of my teachers. I was practicing the law of attraction. I was getting spiritually exhausted. I was determined to do whatever I could to bring us into a physical union. The sooner the better. One morning I decided it had been a week since I'd sent a text. I was so nervous about sending one, but I did. My ego was always in the way, telling me, he doesn't want you, he doesn't care, that's why he doesn't write. I opted to listen to my guides and angels. I also had a meditation with him that morning, and he said to text. I asked in the meditation, what do you need? I need you to text me. I wasn't sure about this. Was he really asking me to text him? Today? Yes, today. I need to know you're still here. It's hard for me to tell you what I want. I want to know we still have our connection. If I text you, will you text me back? This is what I need. Every time you don't text back, I get scared that I'm bothering you and that I'm unwanted. Yes, I'll text back, I promise, he smiled. I trusted all of these messages this morning and sent a good morning, sunshine. Instant response. He couldn't talk, but he called me another endearment. Wow, wow, wow. Say what? We could talk. He would talk to me later. He followed through with his promise. The next night I sent a text again. I was feeling brave after the day before. He called me more endearments and we had a long chat via text. It was very nice. The next morning I sent another good morning sunshine text. He responded instantly. We chatted a few sentences and then he said he was really trying to do something here and basically couldn't talk. I didn't reply back for fear I would disturb him. I felt hurt that he would be short that way. I mean, if he couldn't text, then say right off the bat. I silently cursed him and felt miserable and hurt. My soul circle was also argumentative with me when I asked for support. Oh my, what was this day turning out to be? I tried to imagine his words were typed with a smile on his face, like as in, listen babe, I'm really trying to do something, but you're so damn attractive that I cannot not talk to you. So can you leave me alone so I can finish the thing? I apologized to him in the 5D that I had wished him ill after the text. I was sorry I had lost my patience and not held him in unconditional love at that point. He accepted and apologized for being short also, and we ended up apologizing several times that day to each other. He told me in meditation that he was very tired. I told him I understood, and I'm always here, unconditionally, forever. So basically that brings me to today. He hasn't written to me in 13 days. I sent one evening text. I've sent one email. I have, however, connected with him via 5D. Usually daily. I get up in the morning, I do my daily clearing, I read my vision, I look at my vision boards, I close my eyes and meditate on my vision. I see us joining in union. I feel wonderful feelings that come with it. Open my eyes and feel grateful for what I have. I release it into the universe and trust that the universe will bring me it. We have a lot of interactions. I love every single one. Some are in the Merkaba, some are in the garden, some are just spoken. Some are just feeling. Some are audio of what others are saying to him. Sometimes it's the mirror of what he's feeling. Sometimes when he's sad, I'm sad. And if he's happy, I'm happy. I try to mostly stay in the higher vibrations so he can feed off of them and feel good too. But once in a while, if his emotions are super strong, it will come through and I can't battle it. Yesterday was rather odd. I was sitting down and I heard some nasty words directed toward him. I thought at first it was me. Why would I say, you're such a shithead? I seriously can't stand you. So I continued to listen. The voice became clearer, and I realized it wasn't mine, it was a woman. She was pissed. She was really angry. She felt he had lied or given her some impression of wanting to do something else than what he actually was doing. It seemed like he was deciding that he didn't want to be in a relationship of sorts. Was it a serious relationship or just a one-night stand gone wrong? I couldn't tell, but it was harsh stuff. I sensed he was indifferent toward her anger. Well, maybe he was just being emotionally closed and seemed indifferent. It seemed set that he wasn't interested in what she had been offering. Today things didn't get much better. I did a meditation in the garden with him. At first it was wonderful. We never had to get to the garden to meet, as some may. He was always automatically there on the plateau with me in the beginning. We had a lovely time holding hands. We walked into the garden in our gem-filled path. He picked a daisy and a rose for me. The wise man was happy to see us cross the bridge into the garden. He hugged us both tightly and said, "Oh, my children, I'm so happy to see you both, as usual." I love that wise man. We opted to conjure a wooden swing to sit on and rock. My beloved sat on the left. He's to my left 98% of the time. We were sitting holding hands. We didn't talk too much. I can't even remember what passed between us. But suddenly I had a major thought come to my mind. I jumped up off the swing. "Do you want to see your brother?" I asked eagerly. Background story. My beloved has a brother that passed on to the other side some years ago. It was a painful area for him, and he didn't wish to discuss it in the 3D. Perhaps it's the one thing that needs healing before we can come together. There could perhaps be some wall of thought that says, I can't fully love because they will die and abandon me. I'm not positive about this, but many times I've wondered. So back to the garden, I jump in and ask him. In the 3D, I would never mention his brother because I know it's a painful place for him, and he's asked me not to. In the garden, on a 5D level, there are not so many walls, and we're free to talk without ego entering in. He replied eagerly, yes, and came up off the swing too. I could see the path on the west side of the garden. Begin to conjure a horse with a rider. Hold on, we need a wise man. We have to bring him in carefully so it's all good. I fetched the wise man from near the bridge. He happily helped his brother into the garden. Indeed, brother had ridden in on a horse. He talked to his brother. They shared an embrace. Tears flew. Brother reassured my beloved that he was done his mission here and was leaving, and it had not been anyone's fault. Brother reassured him that he could be here to visit any time. My beloved was so happy, but also in pain. As brother mounted the horse to ride away again, he said to my beloved, listen to Mary. Be with her. She's here to help heal you and bring you to the light. My beloved nodded in agreement, then rode off shouting some final goodbyes and I love you. That's when the crap hit the fan. Suddenly there was a huge boulder pressing down on my love. I panicked. I wasn't strong enough to get it off, not physically, but emotionally or spiritually. The pain was crushing him and my healing wasn't strong enough. He was being crushed into the ground. Tears flowed from his eyes. He begged for help. My heart was screaming for help. Please, please, someone come and help. The wise man was suddenly there, along with 4 other high beings with their hands on the stone, and they eased it off of him. My love was sobbing. The pain he had just felt watching his brother leave was so crushing, it left him close to death. I moved in quickly and started showering him with healing love. I asked all our higher beings to come and assist. I filled his chakras with love, pulled emotions from his auras. Over and over, we showered healing down onto him. I embraced him and held him for a long time. I don't even remember any words that passed between us after that. I don't know how we walked out of the garden hand in hand as usual or how. It was the most terrifying experience I have had yet inside of a meditation. Horrifying seeing him like that. When I came back to my own body, I could feel his oppressive feelings. I attempted to do clearings and have positive feelings. I needed to bring him up a notch or two. The worst part of it was I was beginning to worry about his 3D self. He would be feeling the residues of that experience, and here I was, the creator of it. I have to remember that perhaps that's exactly what he needed, and he did ask to see him. My poor love, I wish he didn't have to suffer with this baggage. Maybe we will see his brother again, and next time it will be easier. God, please give us strength to tackle these necessities. That is all for tonight. I have sent an email to say I'm thinking of him. I hope he is comforted and feeling okay despite such a situation today. Love, Mary. So that is Mary's entry for one day. So that's quite a bit of stuff to take in on how things were happening for her. I hope you guys enjoy hearing it. And again, if you have questions or if you want to volunteer, if you want to write out your own story for me to read, anything like that, you can just write me at twinflameauthor@gmail.com. And next week, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll have somebody to talk to, or maybe we'll just hear some more of Mary's diary. Have a great day.